look the part, but let's see some of your moves.
Feeling like a star, you can't stop my shine. I'm loving how skinny, my head is in the sky. I'm so low, I'm running so low, I'm running so low, I'm running so low, so low. Yeah, I'm feeling good tonight, finally feeling free and it feels so right. Oh, time to do the things I like. Gonna see a princess, everything's alright. Oh, no job but I answer to, ain't a fixture in the palace too. No. And since the carpet nights off me, I'm living life now that I'm free, yeah. Let me get myself together, now I got myself together, yeah. Now I made it through the weather, better days are gonna get better.
Welcome to Star Wars Podcast.
I'm moving on, I'm so happy that it's over now. The pain is gone, I'm putting on my shades to cover up my eyes, I'm jumping.
There we go. Hang on. Still got sound flying out of here.
Gotta put a cork on that thing.
I thought I would have it. I thought I'd get it down, but So why is it? I'm looking at my weekly Star Wars talk on Facebook and it says testing live stream still. What is wrong with this?
Well, you could say this is just a long-term
One
test. One that will never pass.
Yeah. Here, I don't know if it lets me. I don't know if it lets me change the title. What's wrong with it? Oh, here we go. Will it? Cross your fingers. It looks like it does. All right, let's see if this works. There we go.
Wonder if we're gonna have any of our regulars on tonight.
I don't know. It's we're all. Oh, here. Let me get it. I didn't mean to have me as a big man. I was like, I'm looking at too many screens, and I don't want to be like the giant head. All right, there we go. All right, we're back. Star Wars Podcast Day. So I listened to both of your guys' podcasts, so I did listen to those. So
don't spoil Ken's. I have not listened to it yet.
It's there's 40 items, so it's a good.
Plus,
though I will say I think he fudged those numbers a little bit. I think I kind of like 45, but
Well, the contribution from friends don't count, and if I talked about more than one topic at one time, it only counts as one.
I know.
So, and I didn't even list all of them. One of the things I wanted to list, and this isn't a spoiler because it's not in the episode, but do you know that famous poster from Return of the Jedi where they have the lightsaber held up with two hands?
Yep.
Do you guys happen to know whose hands those are?
George Lucas's?
Yeah. So he actually modeled for the artist.
Yeah.
I thought that there was a pretty neat little tidbit of information that I didn't include in the podcast that I put out for Star Wars Podcast Day.
And John, yours is phenomenal for many, many, many levels. Just so I got to talk about John's right away. So it's not really spoilers, but it maybe. But I felt such camaraderie with your father.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because your father, unfortunately, I was in the group of kids who love Star Wars and were getting beat up by the people that didn't like Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like I was in that group that he didn't realize existed,
Yeah.
And when he talks about like his costuming for the first time and the 501st and stuff, it just reminds me of the generation that we come from, where you when you did those things, you were looked upon like a weirdo by like parents, because they were just like, well, get a job, go work in the factory. You know what I mean? You're like, it was like, as soon as you turn 18, no more fun stuff. Just go get a job,
Right.
And And so I'm so happy he found it. I'm so happy that he gets to do it with you. It was so neat to hear that, like passion of Star Wars and as see it, because to see him go to a con, like I wish I would have known him in like 1980 something. I could have taken him to a con.
Mhm.
Well, it's all the more reason now that we have to get our rears out to Ohio and troop with the Scalises.
Absolutely.
It's just such a that's going to be one of those episodes in a couple years when you're going through and either retooling stuff or changing something, and you'll hear it, and it's just like it's preserved forever.
Right. Yeah, it's like a nice little time capsule.
Yeah.
And we have audio proof that you and your dad argue
a lot.
Yeah, but like that's the
But it wasn't a mean argument. It was just loving, connected argument.
Right.
Can I tell you what I think the funniest part of the episode was for me?
What's that?
Not all the references to, I think you should talk to Ken, but the fact that you have a cow named Mr. Binks.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That is good.
Yeah, we have a cow named Binks. We have a sheep named Leia. And I don't know if we have any other Star Wars named animals. My mom usually likes to crack down on that one.
Well, I'm still waiting for your mom to go as a handler one time.
Not a chance in hell.
I understand, but you never.
No, I think
if we would have had this if we would have had this conversation with your dad in a costume a year ago, what would you have said?
You know what? Good point. Touche.
Because I think we might have said you might have said something pretty close to that.
Mm-hmm.
I really think our inn is going to be a fundraising event for the animal preserver.
That's a good point.
I tell you what a lot of the costuming groups are missing right now is they're missing handlers that can take good pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Because there for a while we had tons of handlers, and then I don't know what happened, and now like it used to be there was just you'd go to an event and there would be 100 photos that you would sift through. Like you would go on to the mission report and you would just oh yeah, I remember that and I remember that, and I feel like that's kind of lost because I think it's just not as many people bring as many handlers. Like we used to have as many handlers as we did people.
The man, the myth, the legend.
I can't hear it. There you go. A surprise guest.
What is this guy doing here?
I loved your episode.
Oh, you did? All right. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I try to be the comic relief and the best car. But
No, I found myself smiling the whole way home from work. And after spending a day with middle schoolers, that's usually hard to do.
That's awesome. Now I'm just on break for like a few minutes from my real job. So
now, did John give you the link I sent you so you can listen to Ben Mendelsohn at Steele Saunders' house yet?
yes, he did.
Okay.
I watched the trailer of it, but I haven't watched the whole episode of it yet, though.
Did you order your fake feet?
I did not because I'm still freaked out about
They are creepy, man.
no way out thing or one way out thing
On program.
on program. Yeah. So I know. I mean, he's dying to do it, but I don't know because it's the feet. You know what I mean? I don't know. Is there something about it's the whole feet thing? It'd be different if we were actually barefoot, but that wouldn't work in public, obviously. So.
Are you feet phobic?
No, I just those fake feet look weird. I don't know. There's something about them. But
we could airbrush them, airbrush
Yeah,
them.
we'll just weather it.
Yeah.
Yeah, battle damage.
Okay, there you go. I'm gonna ponder it some more, and we'll see if one way out is gonna work.
And I liked your Ford Falcon reference too.
I do that. I probably do that once a week, and not a single person has gotten it yet.
Yeah,
The Falcon reference. So I'm going to try what he said. I'm going to do the coaxium.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, those require coaxium, don't they, as a fuel additive?
And you'll tell the Emperor as such?
I'll tell the Emperor as such. Yes. All right, I got to get back, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks for
Good to see
stopping
you.
in.
Yep.
Speaking of Get Back, I'll be right back.
Director
Papa's,
Krennic. Everybody. That was our Director Krennic. Yeah, John, that was, and then I don't know if you told him the Ford Falcon references.
I didn't. I'll have to remember to tell him,
because if he looks again, because when I first saw Solo and I was like, that dashboard looks like a Ford Falcon, because we had the Ford Falcon and my cousin and I ripped the dash out, like, because it was just a junker, so it was just and it has the two rounded ends. It's crazy, And Ron Howard or whoever started that movie, I don't know like what scenes Ron put in or who had what, but the references were pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that was a good episode. I mean, that's I'm happy and I hear him talking, and we have Chris Freed, who's doing a Death Trooper. He's about 6'4". And he's doing it's all done other than the like little Greeblies and stuff like that. But he's moving to Missouri because I was trying to get him to do the Matt's shooter, just have a Death Trooper there.
Yeah.
But he's like, I might be moving by then. I was like, oh.
Damn, we're so close too.
I know.
Yeah. So I'm hoping I can convince him to come with me. So
yeah, that'd be a fun trip.
Yeah. Unfortunately, right now though, my employment is in flux. So
what's going on? Are you just
they're closing our theater on Sunday. So yeah, so now I'm trying to figure out. I'm at least employed through the end of the month.
Yeah.
So, but
are you looking westward?
Currently, lightly. I'm think.
Talk to Zoe. I'm telling you, because I told her she has to start getting this plan settled. So.
Yeah, because I think like if it comes down to it, like I'll probably just start clearing assets and wiping debt, and then just start fresh and pack up, move out westward.
Well, she's shooting for June. When I talked to her last, because I said, look, you just got to give yourself a date. So she's shooting for June, mainly just because celebration,
right.
But I had my favorite friend that works at Lucasfilm messaged me the other day. We were back and forth, and he was like, hey, what's her degree in again? Because I'd like to help her. I was like, here you go. Here's what her degree is in.
Oh, look, here's her resume.
Planning on coming in June. You don't have to ask me a half a time.
Right.
But no, it's I don't know. The Star Wars podcast day, I was amazed at how pumped I was about it. And the Georgies, like that, what a way to kick it off, right? Though I wish they would put them on YouTube or something.
I'll let you use your influence on that one.
Well, no, mainly because believe it or not, I have a bunch of people that don't have Facebook. Whether they're like younger friends of mine that just don't use it, or some of like people, my friends that are just like curmudgeon and like, I don't need Facebook, and so I have no way to show them.
Yeah. I had because I know when we were talking through it, I thought we were, when I say we, the forces behind Star Wars and the Rad Batch, I thought that was going to be the first one that we put up on YouTube, and maybe it will be. I just don't have a sense of the when.
Yeah, because I was going to ask and just throw it up on my YouTube, but I didn't want to, take any numbers. When I read your text, because I was like, hey, yesterday, the other thing that threw my podcast day off, Marty came over and we were casting helmets because I got an order for some clone pilots just out of the blue. So I cast we're casting pilots. So I didn't have my phone on me because I learned the hard way. Don't have your phone on you when you have resin flying. And then, so I kind of missed a little bit because I'm trying to get Marty into the podcasting thing. I told him maybe he needs to come and be like a special co-pilot on the Inflatable Falcon every Wednesday. I think he feels left out.
Well, we can always do the thematic thing where we, every so many episodes we pick a topic and get them on for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to ease them into it a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, not everyone has the same willingness to contribute to the weekly wackiness.
That's true. And I don't know. Some probably would think there's something wrong with us three.
Oh no, not some people. I think a lot of people.
Yeah.
Including us. I know there's something wrong with us.
I can't believe I was excited about the Georgies, and I'm telling people, and they just looked at me at work like, what is wrong with you?
Well, I don't know if I should say this out loud or not, but there's actually another Georgie Awards out there that I didn't know about because I was all excited. I told Heather, when I get home from work, let's watch it on YouTube. We looked up the Georgies, and it was something else, like from Canada or something.
Okay. I was worried it was like a porn award or something like that.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, what's the safe word?
And then I'm still working on the comedy routine and the comedy thing. We got to figure that out because I'm getting into this time. This winter is like flying by. Like it's almost the middle of February.
Well, let's pick a date.
Yeah. Well, let's think about picking a date and pick a date. Well, what's next? Is next week Valentine's Day?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I can't podcast on Valentine's Day. Is it Tuesday or Wednesday?
It's Tuesday. Tuesday is Valentine's
Day.
Day.
Okay. Missy's extremely understanding about millions of things, Star Wars and all my nonsense, but certain things I'm gonna. But I'm good.
Are you trying to say you don't love us? What the hell?
Not as much as she. You know what? She's been with. Listen, when a woman would go to a comic book convention with you in 1986 or 87, when me and her were pretty much the only ones wearing deodorant, and I'm not even sure if I had deodorant on. You know, like when I took her to her first comic book convention, she didn't head for the hills. I was in good shape. You know, because back then, if you said, well, yeah, I can't go any further because it'll get too much into some of my comedy routine I'm working on. I don't want to spoil it.
Oh, that's what it is. I see. We don't want to steal your thunder or your material.
No, I don't want to write 3 more things that
Okay.
I was watching old Seinfeld. I'm so desperate. I'm like, okay, how can I turn some Seinfeld in? You know.
Is that the shtick you're going with? Is that
no? I don't know. I was just trying to. I was just trying to. I started writing jokes, and then the jokes sounded like just some guy doing a whole bunch of old dad jokes. I was like, I don't really want to do that. So then I branched it out into a little bit more. You know.
Well,
but
I mean, you've got
in
the
my
old
mind,
man
it's gonna
Han
be
going.
wonderful.
You've got the old man Han thing going. You could use that as your hook.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you what? We were sitting at Marty's house one day, and we were talking, and Missy was there, and they said, "Oh, yeah, Mike, you could do Old Man Han," and she's like, "Oh yeah," and then they said to Marty, "Oh, you could do Anakin." She said, "Oh, you could do young Anakin." I was looking at her like, "Really? I can do the old man?" And Marty's like, he's only like 2 years younger than me. Can do Old Man Han. I mean, he could do young Anakin. Come on. So,
because that could be your shtick, and it's filled with, bad dad jokes.
I just be grumpy. Like,
can you mumble? Are you a good mumbler?
Yeah, I can mumble.
Yeah.
I can complain about being in Star Wars.
Yeah, Chewie, welcome home. Yeah.
I couldn't remember. No. But yeah, back to podcast. Like I listened to I listened to you guys. Yours was awesome. John's was awesome. Like I said, John, yours is like a classic in so many ways. Like it made me happy about the 501st, because depending on where you are in the 501st, you can get sidetracked into nonsense and you forget why you get in. Because would it be my 16th? My 16th anniversary was January 17th of being in the 501st. So 16th, yeah, 2007. Is that 16?
Yeah.
Yep. 16th anniversary. So, and I only remember it because I got approved on my birthday. Not by any, just they're like, you're in. I'm like, hey, wait, it's my birthday, so I'll remember this date. So,
it's my 501st day.
Yes, 501st day. I wear five I wear my TK number on my sleeve at work all the time. Drives my students nuts. They're like, "What's that mean?" Nothing.
It's my prison shirt.
I've run into 2 students whose parents are in the 501st already.
Really?
Yeah. Because one girl's like, "I think you know my dad," and I'm like, "What's his name?" She told me him. I'm like, I don't know. He has a Boba Fett, and he lives. Oh yeah, I know your dad. she described. Like, oh yeah, I trooped with him, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together, you know. So the small world we live in.
Well, one thing I absolutely positively loved about your show, John, was, and back to what you were saying, Mike, about the 501st. So often we do hear the grumblings and the negativity and the frustrations, and it's so nice when folks who are in the group actually experience fun stuff and enjoy being part of it and don't get swept away into the nonsense.
Right.
And the fact that your dad is so excited about being in it, I mean, that's absolutely positively wonderful. I'm envious and jealous and so excited for both of you.
And I can't wait to hear about Friday. Your dad is blast.
I know. He's super pumped.
Do you have his first troop sign already made up for him?
I think our CO does.
Okay.
So if not,
you know what? You should make one that says "First Troop as Father and Son."
That's a good one.
There you go.
Because that's usually ours was written on a Sharpie on an old pizza box. So it'd be like grease stain. Congratulations, First Troop. Someone's holding a pizza box up.
Come on, man. We've learned that Ohio does it better.
Yeah, the Ohio garrison's where it's at.
Yeah, my first troop was scary because it was a Make-A-Wish. And Missy didn't troop. Like, we didn't know anything. I didn't know anything really about the organization. And I went kind of like you did, John. I went kind of in blind. And I'd only had my armor on once before, and it was all Velcroed. Like, the pieces were like, if I moved my arm, like the first or second time I was trooping, I could feel my butt sliding down because the Velcro came off.
Oh,
and by the end of the night, my butt was halfway down to my knees. So, but yeah, that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, hopefully my hat finally leaves the UK here soon, because I would love to get a second costume approved.
Your ISB hat?
Yep. Yeah, because we have a St. Patrick's Day parade coming up, and they were like, yeah, it could be nice, or it could be like St. Patrick's Day last year, where it was 60 degrees the day before, or it was 17 degrees in a blizzard.
Yep.
On St. Patrick's Day. So I'm like, well, if it's 60 degrees, I'll do ISB. If it's snowing, I'm obviously going to do Kylo.
Well, yeah, because we used to do the Mummers New Year's Day, and I wish one of the groups would pick Mummers Day up again, because the Mummers Parade was always fun. Because it's one of the few parades where I think half the people in the parade are drunk before 7 a.m. Or at least still drunk from the night before.
Right.
And so they're just like a happy group of people. Like, it's just, because I've done 4th of July, and man, that's when I took all the E6000 off of, the E6000 off of my TK, because the E6000 just started falling apart in the heat. From high-fiving kids, my TK armor just started separating, So back to podcasts.
Right.
What's the first Star Wars podcast each of you listened to, if you can remember?
I think for me, it might have been Star Wars in Character.
Okay. Do you remember about when?
If I had to guess, it might have been 3 or 4 years ago, because I do remember going to a celebration and bumping into one of the guys from the show. And then after that, or maybe before that, so Star Wars in Character, one of the things I enjoyed about it is they would pick an obscure item or an obscure character, and they would go through the Wikipedia, the backstory of these these random folks that we saw in the background of all of these movies. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but I love the background characters in all of these movies. And bumped into one of them at a celebration. And then I also have a lot of Star Wars action figures, and I took some pictures of those. I took pictures of them in various places, and I made them into postcards, and I sent the postcards into the guys from the show, and they actually read one of the postcards on their episode. And I don't remember which episode it is. I'll have to go back and see if I can find it. But I kind of steered away from them most recently, because it seems like they've reached their limit in terms of the background characters that have stories that are interesting or that are more than just a couple sentences. And there's been a couple episodes where I'm like, I'm not so sure I'm down with this, especially after the purchase of Lucasfilm by Disney.
Yeah, that kind of shook up a lot of podcasts. Yeah, I agree with that. How about you, John?
Star Wars Geek Girl circa the summer of 2021.
Really? That was your first one?
I mean, it's the first one that I remember. Because, I mean, I might have listened to an episode of something else here or there. But yeah, no. I'm still trying to get into the podcast listening for Star Wars. So.
Well, you know what's kind of cool about doing a podcast? It's probably okay. You should probably listen to them, but you don't have to. Because Zoe listens to very few. Because if you listen to too many, you can wind up just accidentally repeating what other people say just because that's what you've heard. Like, right. But because my first one, I taught podcasting like in 2003, right? But I never really listened to them because it was just such a pain to listen to them.
Yeah,
like cars weren't really equipped with ways to. In 2003, it was still cumbersome. Like you'd have to download it unless you wanted to pay for your, you had limited phone minutes and all that kind of stuff. But I think one of the first ones I listened to was the 501st cast, maybe. Like one of their first ones because I was in, and I think it was one of the first ones I just happened on. And then whatever Justin Bolger's, I forget what his original podcast was. He works for Lucasfilm now, but he used to have a podcast too. So that was, Ken, when you were in Orlando, did you go to last Orlando Star Wars Celebration?
Yes. That was 17, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's what the shirt's from.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm just wondering, like, I was going through my 2017 Orlando pictures just to see if there's people in it that I didn't know then that I do know now. Because I was looking for, because that's what I was wondering, because I was like, I wonder if Ken was there, because I was taking, like, because I had Sabine there and I had Ketsu.
Yeah, it was definitely before we really knew each other, because we didn't. Yeah. I thought it was like 2018 or 2019 when
probably 2019. Because it was like, I think it was like it
was right before COVID.
Yeah, it was the summer before COVID, because it was when Zoe it was right before her going off to college. It was like it was literally like that August, I think.
Yeah, so there is a possibility. I have to go now that you say that. I should go through my celebration pictures to see if I got pictures of Sabine or Ketsu or Mike Hinton or something.
Well, if you got Ketsu, because she's, as far as I know, Safi's the only Ketsu in the world right now. Full Ketsu. There's some people with helmets, but I haven't seen anyone in a full Ketsu yet.
So when it comes to a Star Wars podcast, what do you look for in a Star Wars podcast other than the topic?
The host, 100%. If you don't interest me as a person, I'm not going to listen to you for an hour.
Yeah, it has to be like the host is important, because like right now you have Bad Batch. Every other podcast is doing a rehash of the Bad Batch, which is fine. But if I don't like the person, I can't. I'm exactly like John said. I have to. you know. And I have some like I listened to Sal for a year or so before I really met him, because he was on Making Star Wars. He was on Making Star Wars. It's just you know, he would do like the first half of the show, because when they went into spoilers, then Sal would always leave. So I literally would just listen to half their show. I just liked Sal's take on things. I liked his personality, and then that's what got me hooked. Then Steele was on Making Star Wars, and that got me. That's how I met Steele. And then, you know, it was, and I went with the people and left the show that I met him on. If you want to, you know, like Jonah Marie, I liked her. She was on one of those shows, and then she started her own show. She the Wookiee Gunner for the longest time. Now she does Geeky Bubble and stuff, and I just like her and her mother's take on things. So.
What about
and
you?
then I branched off now. So it's podcast day, Star Wars podcasts. Have you branched off? Are there any like Star Wars adjacent podcasts you listen to?
Not yet, no.
Because I met Holly Fry and Brian Young and Mike Pilot did Full of Sith, which then sent me off to
Things You Missed in History.
Yeah, Stuff You Missed in History. And then that's actually one of the few live podcasts we ever saw. Me and Zoe went up when they did the Gettysburg episode. We went and sat in the audience and listened to a live taping of the Gettysburg show. Now,
also, I'll admit I've listened to like one-offs. But not that I would like another one that they do. I think it's called Faux-Authentic History or something. It's very
that
similar.
One I couldn't get into. I tried. That one I couldn't get into.
But I'd listen to like an episode here or there, but nothing consistent. So my drive one way to work is about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I have the benefit. I could listen to, you know, 2 podcasts depending on the show. I could listen to 2 different podcasts in one day, just based on traffic alone. And in the summertime, Thursdays and Fridays, my commute home, because I'm close to the Jersey Shore, it could take 90 minutes.
Yeah,
you know, so I will usually stick to Star Wars podcasts for those. And to get to what you're saying, John, I agree that the hosts have to be interesting. It can't be, for me, it can't be overly redundant. So to your point, Mike, earlier about the folks who do the breakdowns, I turned on one show recently, and I'm talking, it was minute by minute by minute. It is almost as if they were simply reciting the show from start to finish. And I watched it, so I don't need you to tell me what happened, because I saw it happen. And then the other piece to this, and this is where I do sound snobbish, and I apologize. If they're overly snarky or mean or condescending towards the makers, towards the material, I'll shut it off in an instant, and I won't give their show another listen to, because I don't want to spend an hour or longer listening to someone just heap piles of poop on the people that have spent so much time and effort into creating something out of enjoyment and entertainment. Yeah,
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I know for me, just because there's no way to tell really if you're a successful podcaster in some ways, because it comes in cycles and waves. Like, I have badgered many a folk to be on Zoe's show, and then but then you'll get a call when you didn't, you know, like the girls that have only been a couple months in, and they get a request to go do an interview with Vanessa Marshall, and then on top of that, then they got a one-on-one with her, and then she, you know, and that wasn't one of the people I badgered. You know, and then I think if you stay in the game long enough, everyone will get their little bit of whatever at one point, and it easily goes away as quick as it comes. And it's I'm just happy for that, but I'm not going to waste my time on a podcaster if they start bashing it's like when I used to years ago when I first started listening, they started going on a rant about Jar Jar. That was almost like a red flag, because that was like the low hanging fruit, as John and those guys are saying on his podcast. Kept making me. I know this is terrible, but I kept thinking of like that was almost like a euphemism for like Chewbacca run, not having pants on. I was like, what?
Different Malu runs, man. Different Malu runs.
But no, but if they started going on a Jar Jar rant, then I was just like, yeah, this is probably not going to be the show for me. Or if they started going on a rant about how Disney ruined Star Wars, or there was nothing good but the first three, like I was just like, Well,
especially because I've heard some shows, talking about the first three, they'll say they were never as good at that as the original, and then you find out that they themselves were born in like 1987, and so they never saw the original that was in the theater anyway. So what they're talking about isn't actual and factual. So you're phony baloney.
Well, and if you've put any minimal amount of research into what George Lucas was doing, some of their narratives don't run true to what they're saying. I mean, I still feel bad about hating Lando, and that was just because he got Han frozen. And some of these people were like, they're borderline, like cuckoo.
Oh goodness! I mean, look at what some of the more recent stars have gone through.
Yeah. Oh.
Whether you're talking about Moses Ingram or Kelly Marie Tran or John Boyega, even Daisy Ridley got her fair share of negativity, and I don't have time for that in my real life, like in terms of walking down the street or whatever. I don't want to consume entertainment where that's the focal point. I don't even like watching movies that are too overly dramatic and negative. Like I'll watch a cartoon before I put that on.
But my favorite feud, here's my favorite feud of all time: John's dad and Battlestar Galactica. That is the best. That is the most loyal Star Wars fan I have ever seen. That he is not,
Wait, what? Hold on. I'm confused.
Wasn't it your dad? No, wait a minute. I'm thinking of someone else.
I think you're thinking of someone else.
Oh, no. Who was against? Who was I listening to then that won't? It wasn't your dad then. I must have been listening. I've listened to too many Star Wars podcasts.
Do you have a different father, John?
I don't
think
so.
No, it's not your dad. No, but there was someone. Who was I? I was listening to some podcast. Now I got to go back and look through what I was listening to. There is someone who will not watch Battlestar Galactica because of
John Dykstra.
Yeah. And I was thinking it was your dad, but now that I'm saying it out loud, it wasn't your dad. Now Now I got to think of who. Now I got to look through my podcast now. I was thinking it was John's dad all day.
No, my dad loves Battlestar.
Okay, good.
Especially the reboot because Bo-Katan's in it.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait till your dad. I picture in a couple years John and John running the Ohio Garrison.
See, this is even before that. This is what I envision happening. And do you know of any of the celebrities that are going to be at the event the event this weekend, John? Or is it just a 501st kind of thing?
This one's just like a 501st thing.
Okay. So I'm envisioning the two of you going to an event in costume and to have one of these Star Wars celebrities say, wait a minute, can I get a picture with you? Like I want your dad to tell that story after it happens, because that sort of thing does happen. There are times where the celebrities are walking around or getting lunch or they're with their handler or whatever, and they'll stop and say, wait a minute, can I get a picture with you? Mm-hmm. And I want to hear your dad's response to that. And I bet he'll be giddy like a 16-year-old getting their first car.
Yeah, one of the last times I was at Steel City, me and Marty got pictures with every celebrity because they wanted pictures with Chewie.
That's not a surprise.
We got
that's low hanging fruit right there.
I know. we got Tony Danza came out, the Sergeant Slaughter, the guy from Cobra Kai. Like we were just walking, and they come, and I was taking pictures. They come up to me, hey, can we get a picture? Can so and so, can Eric or whoever it was, and then they come running out and get a picture with them. All these people, their line would have to wait while they ran out and got a picture with Chewie. Well, that's John. You know, maybe you should work on an emperor, and then you could be your dad's boss.
I was this close to messaging Dan to ask him how he does his emperor makeup, because I saw someone was doing a run of robes on Facebook, and I was like, oh, that would be a cool costume.
Yeah, well, because he just does a face appliance.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely talked to Dan because Dan's emperor is good.
Yeah, because Dan and I were talking about it the last time I was over there.
Yeah.
For the Tuscan party. So.
Yeah, I definitely talked to Dan about that because then you could be your dad's boss. You know, you just.
Well, then I'd be your boss too.
That's true. I'm fine with that. I'll get my Vader on. I got my lights for my Dejeric table done. I'm slowly getting all these jobs done.
You guys got to start putting on your turn signals when you change lanes.
No, but I was thinking because everything is leading me up to get Vader done. Like right now, all my projects, I picture everything as a graph. They're all pointing to get this done so you can do Vader. Get this done so you can do Vader. Get this done. You know what I mean? And because Marty was coming over last night to help me with my Tuscan robes, but then we got to order for 2 helmets. And because I want to get these robes done, so I just have this list of stuff I just want to get off the table so I can get Vader done. Speaking
of table, when are you going to get your Dejeric table done?
Well, that's what those are for. So
that's what I mean. Like, when is it going to get done? I need a timeline here.
Well, the short wires come tomorrow. I needed 6 short wires, so they will all be plugged in probably tomorrow. And if it works, then you'll see pictures on Facebook. If it doesn't work, I'm going to have to figure out what I soldered wrong. Because, like I said, I was like solder, burn. Like I just ran out of fingers to burn. Thank goodness.
You couldn't take a long wire and make it a short wire?
No, I could, but I'm trying to. In my mind, it's going to be really nicely wired on the inside with all these plugs. I know in reality, it's going to look like spaghetti with wires sticking on top. But in my mind, I have this picture that I'm going to painstakingly route each wire. I'll do that for the first 2, and then I'll just be shoving them in to,
Yeah, because don't you got to get 30?
Huh? 20. I soldered 30, and I messed one up, so I had 29. I was worried. Then I went down and counted. There's only 26. So I'm like, oh, good. They give me extra. So I don't have to try to figure out how to unsolder something. So I just have to plug them in a circuit board, plug in the I have to put a speaker in it. So I have 2 Vader amps. I'll just put one of my Vader amps inside and then put all the buttons on. It should run.
There you go.
And Jarek for everybody. I don't have the pieces though.
Well, you just need to go to Galaxy's Edge so you can pick those up.
Yeah, I just might 3D print them.
That too.
I have the...
Yeah, but how can you 3D print them if you're 3D printing our Din Djarin and stuff?
Well, that stuff, yeah, I know. Well, wait a minute. What did I print the other day that just printed? I got...
Or you could just email the files to John because John hasn't started printing Echo yet.
Look, I have bigger fish to fry.
Well,
finding a job.
You know what the thing with Ken, the thing with 3D printing, it's kind of like podcasting in a way. Like you have to be in the right mindset for it to go perfectly. Because like right now, my printers are empty. I have all our Din Djarin files on the disk. I have to put a new nozzle on. I'm like, I just don't feel like ripping it apart because with printing all of our stuff, I went through a nozzle, and so I'm like, okay, I got to put a new nozzle on. But I think we'll be good in our Pinto armor. I did like your Pinto reference too in your episode.
I had to get that one out there.
Brendan Wayne on here one of these days.
That's another thing. Going back to you were saying about a successful podcast. Like I don't care who it is. I don't care which maker it is. Pablo Hidalgo, Leland Shee, any of them. I just would love to see one comment from them saying, I thought this was funny, or a thumbs up from Sam Witwer. Whatever. Like, I think that would be that would tickle me to no end.
Me personally, I'd like to meet Sam Witwer's brother before him. Because he wrote this really like Gary Gygax from Dungeons and Dragons biography. And then Sam. I'd take his brother first and then him. Like if they give me a choice, my D&D nerd in that regard would, like, as much as I like Sam Witwer, like he's a maker, but his brother like he did a really cool deep dive of D&D, which that's like a rarity to me.
Nice.
Fair enough. I can't believe you choose, Gary Gygax over Darth Maul, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it would be a hard choice, but I think I would pick him. And then, see that then I would have my into him. See, it's a two-way. You have to play it like chess.
Or to Jarek.
Well, because a lot of the people that I've met, because I was just talking to Jordan and Matt this week about how it's going to be the 3-year anniversary from when they were at our house, and so I've become friends with them. And I never asked those guys for anything. We've just become friends. And I think too many people just, like, I badger tons of people, but I don't badger the people that have become my friends. Like, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would never, like, try to overstep with Jordan or never try to overstep with Matt or any of the other guys that I met through there. I overstep with their PR department all the time.
Well, you gotta know your limits. You gotta know. What's that old song? You gotta know when to hold them,
know when to fold them,
yeah.
know when to walk away,
and know when to run.
That sounds it's always was too country for me. At my house, country makes our ears bleed.
I'm so impressed, John, that you know a Kenny Rogers reference.
What can I say? I'm an old soul at heart.
Well, yes, you have horses, so don't you have to like play country music if you have horses? Isn't it stuck in the horse's ear like a CD or something? You have to.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
See, we have Amish, so like horses aren't necessarily contributing to.
The Amish aren't allowed to listen to music, are they?
Oh, don't even get me started. We could do a whole episode on.
My dad and I were just talking about this yesterday.
No, because when I was a kid, all the Amish drove Monte Carlos. They all drove early, but they not the real long fronted Monte Carlos, like the 70s ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they would all they would hide them at other people's houses. So like Amish father A would help third cousin Jed hide his car from his dad, while his son was hiding his car, and they all just turned blind eyes. And then you would see them every Saturday with the Amish kids would have heavy metal t-shirts on, still have their black Amish pants on, and kangaroo sneakers. When I was growing up, the Amish kids all wore kangaroo sneakers.
Well, because they had the little pocket on the side that you could keep your change in.
Yeah.
Or are you talking about different kangaroo sneakers?
No, that's the ones. Yeah, that's the ones. Because they sold them in some of the Amish stores. Like the store in Witness, that was a dry goods store, and upstairs they sold clothing, and they sold kangaroo sneakers. And all the Amish around Intercourse, Pennsylvania, that's where they went most of their shopping.
And we'd like to welcome all of our listeners to
Amish Talk.
The inflatable buggy.
I learned yesterday that the Amish can't have zippers because it is a mechanical a mechanical thing.
And the female Amish have no buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Their clothes are all pinned.
Wild to me.
Are
and
pins just as mechanical as buttons?
We have gray buggy Amish around here. That's the main thing. But there's blue, white, green buggy Amish, black buggy Amish, black bumper Amish, black buggy Mennonite, black bumper Mennonite. All these are all different sects of Amish, just in the area I live. Like
what
I worked at Radio
if four of them meet at like one corner? Does like time fold in on itself? Like what?
No, it's just because they don't have churches. They don't have,
joke.
Except for the black bumper
buggy bumper
Amish and the black bumper Mennonite, and I think the black buggy Mennonite, they have church buildings, but most of the Amish don't have a church building. They just have a giant wagon full of chairs. And they just, if it's your turn to have it at the barn, They're like space Jedi.
They just convene wherever they want.
Well, I think I imagine there's a calendar. I'm picturing there's like some sort of preparation. Like, hey, it's over at so and so's farm next.
Jebediah's.
You know. But the first, and then we'll get back on track. The first cell phone and the first fax machine I ever saw was in an Amish contractor's truck in the 80s. He had a custom built Ford that you could walk, because around here, if you want to make good money and you don't really feel like having like a real job, you drive for Amish. They pay you well, and they will go buy a brand new truck for their contracting business, and you just drive it. And if you can wield a hammer, they'll pay you even more. And he had a fax machine and a cell phone, like a bag phone, built into the back of it, and that's what he did his contracting work.
Wow.
Because the Amish, at least their main, it was the wire coming into the house. It wasn't the actual phone itself. It was that physical wire. So a lot of the Amish will have generators run by propane. Well, you can't grow propane, but it was that there was like a superstition of that physical wire coming into your house. So the Amish around here used to have phone booths out in their field. You just see this weird like boxy shed, and that was their phone booth out in the field in the 80s.
Do they have Wi-Fi? Or
Well,
that's
what's hurting their faith right now is because of that. Like now, a lot of these Amish kids will get like burner phones or hoe phones or whatever you call them. You know, when you like buy like a by the minute phone. What do you call them, John?
Hold on. Did you just call it a hoe phone?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we need to come back to Star Wars podcast.
No, but it's not. What are they supposed to be called?
It's just a burner phone.
Mike, you are taking us down a path that I cannot follow.
I'm sorry. I think I just killed John. That's just what we always called him. I'm sorry. Sorry for my listeners to calling phone, you know. Anyway, back to podcast. I think what I like about podcasts, you guys can tell me what you like, but I think the accessibility to podcasts, like even the bigger podcasts, they're just like us. You know, they might have Patreon or they might have this contact or that contact, but most of the time they're a message away where you can talk to them in one way, shape, or form. You know, that's one of the things I love about podcasting in general.
So just for fun, I think what we could do, there was that list of, like, you said it was 107 for Star Wars Podcast Day.
Yeah.
So let's, over the course of the next 2 months, go through and pick some of those from the list. So Mike, if you pick 2 of them, you tell John and I which 2 you pick. Okay. I'll tell the 2 of you which 2 I pick, and John can tell us which 2 he picks. We can listen to them, and we'll talk about them on a later show.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And who knows? It might be we might find one of those shows that we really, really like the Dad Batch.
Yeah, the Dad Batch. Dad Batch and
our Armor Party.
Yeah,
and we drop the dime, you know, or grab our hoe phone and we call them and see if they'll be on our show.
Yeah. Well, I do have the Dad Batch possibly lined up for Star Wars Geek Girl. They're just like always busy. Well, no, okay.
Not
so John from the Dad Batch basically was like a big brother for Zoe when she was out in LA. Like she would troop with him and he'd make sure she had a ride home, and you know what I mean? Like he just watched out for her and stuff.
And he still didn't bring her to Magic Jump, so it doesn't count.
Well, they're the Bad Batch, the Dad Batch, not the Dad Bounce.
It could be.
But
could have been. They were a lot closer than we are now.
Well, that's what. Yeah, I think we're slowly, other than just our whole hoe phone discussion, I think we are slowly getting the reins on making this be a semi decent podcast. I don't want to, you know.
That's a stretch.
We're trying.
Not after tonight.
You know, we're at least good guests on other podcasts.
I'll give it that.
Okay.
I'll give you that.
Because I still have to talk about the Georgies, man. I think everything was aligned for that to how it worked out.
Yes. And Steven has some suggestions. He had messaged the group saying for next year he wants to get a bunch of costume folks involved. So I can imagine, Rebel Legion 501st, Mandalorian Mercs. I imagine us filming little clips very similar to what he did and sending them to him to cobble together into something.
I still think Chewie is a guest, and you just can't understand what he says.
Well, not even just as a guest; he's a presenter.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And presenting the award for, and the winner is.
Yes, absolutely, 1,000,000 times yes.
But the joke is, we get it, we know what he's talking about, but never explain it.
Yeah.
Be like, you know what? I don't think there could have been any more deserving winner. Ken, I'm sure you agree.
Absolutely. And even in that little winners screen, remember how Steven made those? It's just that there's no picture of anybody. It's just, Chewy talk.
My only thing with that is I think we should have listed all the categories and nominations like a month out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're the one who has a friend with a DeLorean. You could drive 88 miles or go back in time and get all that stuff done for us. And remind me to make an actual commercial for the show.
Yes.
Because I didn't do that for this year.
Come on. The whole show is sponsored by Star Wars Geek Girl. Come on.
Yeah, but the Rambling Star Wars Fan and the Beskar Bucket had a category that we nominated.
Well, and the Inflatable Falcon.
Yeah, yeah.
The Inflatable Falcon, they sponsored the award for most dramatic scene.
Ah, you're right.
I think the hosts of this show know a thing or two about
achievement for the Han's favorite criminal underground friend, Needles.
Yeah. Speaking of the Georgies, though, I know we talked about it last week, but that is arguably the third best episode of a podcast that I have recorded.
What's
number one and number two are the ones with my dad?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's by default. But I think if you eliminate those two, I think that's the best thing that I've been a part of.
Yeah,
it was so well done.
Yeah. I still can't believe we got through it. I figured me or John would screw it up.
Have you ever listened to us? Or my 30-minute rambling Star Wars episodes? Those are
they're good. Yours are good though.
I gotta slow down.
I still think a funny. I don't know if it should be your April Fool's episode. You should give John the basic notes, and then he should have to listen to it live and make one of those string things.
Yeah,
be interesting.
I'm gonna
get a shirt with like all stained pits and your hair all.
Yeah. So I'm gonna mention Willow, Bryce Dallas Howard, Howard Kazanjian, and Val Kilmer. String them together.
I'm gonna have to definitely get up on my my research abilities.
But yeah, that was. I mean, I don't know. That was fun. John, your episode was top notch. Your dad will be podcasting in a year. You know that.
Yep, 100%. If he can find the time to do it, he's going to. I mean, he's already asking me again, like, hey, when are we doing another episode? So,
I tell you what we did with Zoe a couple times after the movies. We did a post. We went to a diner and I just put the Zoom recorder in the middle of the table and we did a round table of what everyone thought. You might have a one there. Just put your phone out and record after his first troop.
Mm-hmm.
Like just do a special.
Well, how about a couple clips at the troop?
Yeah.
Some selfie videos, or have one of the handlers, record you while you're there.
True.
Or discussion before and then after.
You see, that's what I was thinking. Like get a video or just record our conversation like while we're driving up, and then while we're driving back.
And then you guys are gonna run into the troop where you forget one key component of your costume.
You went from a character to a handler really quick.
Well, I went to Fan Expo the day that Mike and Zoe went up there, and I brought the wrong helmet.
Yikes!
So I have a finished my Kenix Gar Kabur helmet, and then I have the other one for the post Imperial costume they're making now, and they're in similar bags. And I grabbed the wrong one and brought it all the way to Philadelphia. Got all my gear on, went to put my helmet on, and no, cannot.
Yeah, I forgot 000's head one day. Luckily, Missy came, and it was an hour away, and she came, brought it, and I forgot my undersuit, and Missy saved the day again. It was like 45 minutes one way. She's like, "I'll go get it."
Yeah,
Because I was like, "How can I put my TK on with jeans on? I don't think that's good."
You better do something special for Valentine's Day. And if the two of you don't want to celebrate Valentine's Day, you can celebrate our youngest's birthday. It's his birthday that day.
Oh, okay, good. Well, Missy's a handler. When we first started handling, I've said this before, I would look over and she'd just be shoving her hands somewhere in Darth Vader adjusting stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it'd just be like, just what the handlers had to do,
Brings handling to a whole new level.
Yeah. Well,
one of the things I enjoy, but when Heather goes with me in troops, she has this gift for getting folks together into a photograph. There'll be people that are, whether it's, a one parent and a kid and all that kind of stuff. And Heather will be like, "Hey, I can take a picture of all of you. Why don't all of you get in? And here's a prop and do this." I've seen pictures of people at events where they're just all standing in a row next to each other.
Yeah.
And she makes it fantastic. Like, it could be a Christmas card or, a birthday announcement or whatever. She really gets into that.
And that's where when you're trooping, and it's neat when you have a handler that's excited about it, because then that puts people's fears aside. Because other than any of the Star Wars costuming groups, your next closest thing that is going to like Disney, where it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's very like, okay, you got to stand right here, don't touch them, don't click, and then next, so
yeah, it's very corporate.
Yeah, but that's the fun part with podcasts. Like, I like to listen to the mission reports, and that's why, like, with the 501st cast, if you haven't listened to that, John, I still think you should throw your name in the hat of being on that show.
I already did.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I messaged. I think the first time we brought it up, I messaged. I messaged. Oh God, what's her name? Nikki. I messaged her that night.
Yeah, because and then send all your mission reports in. Like, when you finish that one with your dad, put father and son troop, blah, 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 write it in and send it to them. Because they love that stuff. And I love the 501st cast. I like just because it's sometimes it reminds you of why you do it. And you get to, like, one of these days I want to go through all the mission reports, because they always put the number of people that are in the Legion, so you could see how it's grown. And we had a drop off there during COVID, kind of, but
if you could have any guest, real or imaginary,
George Lucas,
Hayden Christensen.
I knew what you were going to say.
Never mind.
George Lucas.
Yeah. Ken, answer your own question. Yeah. It's a conversation.
Frank Oz.
Really, Frank Oz?
I think it would be fantastic to have Frank Oz, because if you're inviting George Lucas, I don't need to invite George Lucas.
Yeah.
If you're inviting Hayden Christensen, I don't need to invite Hayden Christensen.
George Lucas is like, that's the only Star Wars person that I ever like. If I'm always thankful when I meet any Star Wars person, but George Lucas is the only one that really, like, that's the only one that really matters to me. Mm-hmm. To me, and I probably never will, but that's the.
Well, I would caution you on saying that, and the reason I say that is because it's really, really hard to predict what could or will happen.
Oh, I know, but I'm in Bumble Nowhere, Pennsylvania. I'm not.
But you don't stay in Bumble Nowhere, Pennsylvania. You're going to London. You've been to Maryland. We're going to go to Ohio this summer. So there are lots of opportunities. Your eldest daughter is getting ready to move to California and do stuff out there. I mean, for all you know, you could get invited to a picnic, and George shows up in khaki shorts, white shoes, and a plaid shirt, asking if you want to join him in the three-legged race.
Yeah, there we go. The closest I came to happiness is when Matt Martin said George Lucas's people loved Zoe's episode. So I at least know he saw me on film hugging my kid. Yeah,
so of the three of us, you probably have the best chance of that happening than the rest of us.
You never know. John can move out and be the next Kylo Ren.
Well, hold on. Look, don't worry, Mike. I will just siphon off of your energy, and I'll have my dad, and then you'll be my adoptive father.
Okay,
I'll ride yours and Zoe's coattails.
Well, that could be a fun story. You could just say that they're your two dads.
Yeah, there you go.
My co-dads.
Co-dads.
Your mom's just standing there with a frown on her face. Damn Star Wars ruined my life.
So to go back to the question I was gonna ask is, if you could invite anyone, what questions do you think you would ask them, or what topics would you want to talk about with them?
Oops,
You
jerks.
got to rethink that question, I think. If I had George Lucas on the show, I would probably not even be able to ask a question. I would have to hand it off to you because I would lose my mind.
Well,
Ken, you're the interviewer here.
I would ask him if he would be my big spoon like I asked Weird Al.
You wouldn't ask him about Mara Jade? You wouldn't ask him about...
Oh, God, no. Hey, you know what, though?
Why do you really hate the holiday special?
That TK done, because if Weird Al concert comes around again, he can get on stage with Weird Al.
That's true.
And being like, I'm 5'10", so I'm one of the shorter stormtroopers. They always set me next to Vader, so I had a 50-50 chance of getting Weird Al to come up and sing to me every time.
Did that happen?
I don't think he heard you.
Did that happen?
Yeah, oh yeah, he sung to me a couple times.
There you go.
So what question would you ask him, John? Because we got Mike over here saying he'd be tongue-tied and speechless.
I don't know. I don't think I'd be. I think I'd be too nervous.
See,
I think if we're going for if George Lucas was on this show, I genuinely think I would be too starstruck to even be a part of the conversation. I think I would just be a spectator at that point.
Yeah, I'd probably start talking about a hoe phone
or the Amish. Or vegan recipes.
Have you ever tried vegan nacho cheese?
Fakin' bacon?
You have not lived until you've had our vegan manwich.
Our sloppy nose.
Yeah, sloppy nose.
You realize it's made out of potatoes, right?
Uh-oh.
Hey,
Chewy's mad now. Yeah, I mean... Man, I like George Lucas would be. I'd have so many Star Wars questions, and I'd probably ask him. I'd probably ask a stupid Indiana Jones question that I wasn't really even sure about, or I'd ask him about Red Tails. Like some
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck. I've never seen Howard Duck in his completion.
What'd you say, Ken?
I've never seen all of Howard the Duck.
I haven't either.
We could do a watch party of that this summer.
I've never seen any of the like slasher films either. Like I've never seen like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street.
George Lucas wasn't involved in those.
No, I know, and I'm just trying to think of all the films I've never seen that people get mad at me for.
I don't think anyone's going to get mad at you.
Twice Upon a Time.
What?
Have you seen Twice Upon a Time?
Nope. You mentioned that on your show.
Yeah. How about
You mentioned Cujo too, and he didn't make that either. That was,
Well, that came out in 1983. That's
Yeah.
why. But how about Tucker, A Man in His Dream?
Yeah, because
You've seen
I
that?
saw that because there used to be a Tucker here in Lancaster at the old car museum.
Oh, okay. Strange Magic.
I might have seen that in the maybe. That sounds familiar.
That might have been. It was an animated one, so the girls may have wanted to go see that.
Yeah. What was the one that came out right about when Star Wars Rebels came out? That was a Lucasfilm project.
Red Tails?
Huh? No, but wasn't there an animated one too?
That could have been Strange Magic.
Yeah. Then that I don't think I saw it in the theater. I think I saw it. That was the Rebels premiere. I think was the last Lucasfilm event the girls did in Jawa costumes. Because I just started putting together Sabine, and we had to submit pictures to do that. Back then, you had to send pictures to Lucasfilm, and we had to send pictures of them in their Jawa costume.
Even though they were under 18?
2 stories down the movie theater, and I was worried she almost killed somebody. Because it was like we were on the second floor, and it was open, like you could see down. Well, she was a little kid. She picked her toad up and thought it was a shelf, and she just let it go, and it fell all the way down to the next floor. I was like, oh, there we go. You won't be going to any more Lucasfilm events if you kill a kid with a toad.
You can't trust Jawas these days.
Yeah, it's Jawas. I do miss my kids being Jawas though.
They can just be really tall Jawas now.
Yeah, I'm a Jawa snob, man. Little kids make the best Jawas. I mean, I'm not to disparage any adult Jawas, but
won't they always be your little kids though?
Yeah,
really.
It's just the movements. They were both the same height. They were both like waist high when they started, and their movements had those like jerky kid movements that the Jawas had in New Hope.
So you're saying they're more graceful now?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, Safi doesn't have much choice. Once you bolt her into 000, it's you're moving. However, you don't have much movement.
You don't move. The suit moves you.
Right. Have you seen 000 in person, Ken?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Brickfest.
Oh, Brickfest.
That was the first time I met Marty formally and officially.
Yeah, because he was a sand trooper.
Yes, and he had. I thought he also had R2 with him.
Yep. And then Zoe or John and Safi did Steel City.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that you're going to be starstruck by George. What about Hayden? What would you ask Hayden? He's on our show. What do you want to know?
I mean, probably not my opening question, but something to the effect of like, are you aware that like you, the character that you portrayed in these 2 movies, like, are you aware that it has had such a profound impact on people my age that, your Star Wars is what we grew up on. And like, you're my view. First off, I'd show him my tattoo. That's a given. But something to that effect of like, do you realize that like when I think of Star Wars, I think of your movie. Your scene with Ewan McGregor is the first thing I think of.
He's one of those ones I would like to ask a question, but I would also like to tell him that the fans, they liked him. You know what I mean? Because I saw that at Celebration where it was just the wrong small vocal group that just ruined the prequels. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of those guys are backpedaling now and say how much they love them. But like when I first went and saw Phantom Menace, when I first Attack of the Clones, we all loved them. And then it was just this vocal minority that I don't know if they were just more tech savvy with the internet. They just started like just shooting out all the, vitriol.
Unfortunately, they still exist. And one of the things I find really strange about it is some of those folks who bash on Star Wars now, they'll start getting into like box office numbers and stuff. And I can tell you as a fan of all sorts of movies, I've never gone to a movie and judged its value, its entertainment, its fun by how many tickets it sold. Like,
yep. I'm worried about that one ticket.
Yeah, the one that I got, and I want to make sure that my seat is not taken by somebody else.
Yep.
But they've managed to find all sorts of stuff to pad the narrative that they wanted to say about how bad something is.
Yeah.
And I think if I had Hayden on the show, I would definitely follow that path and say, what is it like now, coming back to it, having so much space in between the things, and experiencing it as an older adult and a member of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, because you're there with similar people.
Yep.
And it's a different time. So what was that experience like?
Yeah. I just remember we were sitting in that arena for Phantom Menace at Chicago. It felt so good for those people that came out on stage to see, after all those years, Ahmad Best and all this, that you know, and you feel bad for all of those people because they just got, I still to this day, and I was trying to say it on the Georgies, I don't think I came across the right way. I still think, especially young Anakin from Phantom Menace, Jake Lloyd, I still think he was the unfortunate victim of people didn't realize how powerful the internet was as a tool of hatred.
Yes.
You know, because I know some people didn't like I thought his portrayal as a young slave child was wonderful. I'm sorry. I never was like, well, I can't believe that kid's a slave. You know, I thought he did good as a young slave. Like, how's a young slave on a backwater planet supposed to act? I thought he looked good, you know. And I never thought the acting in any of the new movies was any worse than it was in the original three. You know, it was, I don't know. I felt like Hayden portrayed an awkward person who was raised by celibate monks. How was he supposed to act with a woman? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, have they seen most of us on our first dates?
Exactly.
So
I'm awkward on a date with my wife today. So we don't even have to go back all those many years.
That's what I'm saying. I just think, and just like you said, Ken, when we were listening to podcasts, like, it's just, I know we live, it always comes down to, when you look in your driveway, the paper that's full of good news is free. The paper that's full of bad news, you have to pay for, and people pay for it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just a shame. It's a shame, you know. And I think, like, I think of what Zoe and I, if there was more podcasts out when Clone Wars came out, who knows what would have been said? Because
goodness, yeah.
they were like,
I think it'd be both ends of the spectrum.
I hate Ahsoka. I hate this. All the Jedis can't jump that high. Oh, they're not jumping high enough. Like, 1 minute, the same people that are saying the Jedis were too weak. The next week they're saying, oh, they're too powerful. You know what I mean? It was, and you know, I don't even want to classify those people as fans anymore. They're professional critics or unprofessional critics, whatever you want to call
them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They just have a vehicle to share their voice, really.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that moment in time where we get the sequel trilogy renaissance. And I hope that it doesn't take 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, as much flack as the Disney era Star Wars movies have received, I am hoping that there will be more folks who will, like John said, come out and say, that was my Star Wars. That was the first movie I saw with my family, or that was the first character that I dressed up as, or the first character, you know, fill in the blank.
Yep.
You know, for me, one of the most powerful parts of the Disney movies, the Disney Star Wars movies, those were the first movies that I went to see on opening night with my family.
Yep, same here.
You know, so we got the tickets, and in our house it would be we'd get the tickets for the family. They would go home after the first showing, and then I would stay to watch it again. And we didn't do it for everyone, but I think we did it for either 3 out of the 5 or 4 out of the 5. I know we didn't do it for The Force Awakens, but for the other ones, I definitely remember doing it. Even to the point where it might have been The Rise of Skywalker. I had to leave halfway through the second showing because I was sick. I was not feeling well, and I actually crawled over the seat to get out because I was in the middle of the row, and I didn't want to walk by everyone, so I just turned around, stepped over the seat, and left. But that's one of the most memorable things from the movies was our family went to opening night for every single one of them.
Yep.
And we enjoyed every single one of them, even though our oldest child almost got us murdered. So we were coming out of we went to the opening night of Force Awakens. We were coming out of the theater. We're in the lobby, and he just turns to us, and it was a full Homer Simpson kind of thing. Like, I can't believe they killed Han Solo on opening night. So I just remember putting my jacket around, and like, we gotta go. Like
you're getting pelted with.
Like we got to get to the car because he didn't mean anything by it. He was a teenager at the time. You know, might have even been younger than that, but you know, it's those kind of things. And I get excited to hear the stories from the kids when they're not kids anymore about how they enjoyed it and what it meant to them.
Yeah. Well, that's how it is with the TV shows now, with the all the movies. It's just there's things that are hooked around it, and maybe that's the people that don't like it. They've become so jaded that they don't look at what joy it brings them. You know, like you know, and that's where Trooping, when it comes to swing back to Trooping, like I think of a lot of those things we've gotten to do, like the places we've gotten to go and the backstages and just get to stand, and like you get to be invisible in armor. Like you get to stand there and just people watch, fans just coming up. They don't know you from anybody, you know. Like I'm looking forward to hearing John's dad's build of his armor. Like when he does, I mean the Krennic is awesome, but I can't wait till he's in armor, because that's John knows from when you have a helmet on and people, that invisibility.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, many of those kind of characters, whether it's a TK or a Din or even a custom Mando, they do get a lot of attention. As much as I appreciate the costume for Endor Rebel or even an ISB officer, I don't see the kids running across the midway trying to get to the, you know, to the ISB officer for a photograph. They'll want them in the photograph when they're there, but I don't see them. You know,
yeah. Well, I'll see more adults that want like the ISB and stuff, and depending to me, especially the newer Star Wars, like probably Rogue One and newer, the officers have a more prevalent position. Like if you look at all the ISB in Andor, they actually have part where if you look at the previous movie, they were just sitting around the table and Vader chokes one and he choked a couple, but they didn't really have like major roles in the that the kids would like, you know.
And that's one of the great things I think too about some of the more recent shows is they've spread the wealth in terms of contribution to the story. Yes, there are the main characters. I mean, we could talk about the Bad Batch. You know, you've got the main clones, and there are those folks like Rampart and some of the senators who play smaller roles, and they're just as important as the Bad Batch, or just as impactful as the Bad Batch. They may not be the focal point, but they're memorable and they're distinct.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's just, and then you know, again, the podcasting of costume building, which, you know, the Dad Batch got me back on to listening to that kind of stuff. And I didn't listen to the what was the other one? Thank the Maker.
That was us.
I didn't listen to that for the longest time for loyalty to you, Ken, because they took your name. But now with the Armor Party, then I've kind of swung back.
Yeah, because I think they're friends, right?
Yeah. So I've swung in and listened to them a few times. But that's also neat too, like I said, the Dad Batch is more of a nice refined version of what we could have been if we would have just put a little production.
So they're the polished Dejeric table, and we're the ones that with the wire sticking out. And...
Yes. No, they're the Dejeric table. We're the chess set on top of an unfinished Dejeric table.
Just duct taped.
To
like one of those cable spools.
What do you like? So if Han has the Dejeric table in the Falcon, what do you think? Like the good ship? What do you think Luthen's ship has? Does it have like a VR headset or something? Does it have like a holodeck, like Star Trek?
Well, I don't know if Luthen is really that concerned with entertainment.
That's true.
More than having space for all the rare antiquities that he's liberated.
Yeah, that's true.
But speaking of that, though, what would they have on the large troop transports? Because that it can't be all work all the time.
That's true.
Do you think Rampart has some? Does he have a movie theater on his Venator?
Yeah, well, that's you wonder. Yeah, that would. Well, now we don't have anything because it's all busted up from busted loose in the shipyard.
And I just learned today that Venator is actually a real word. It's not a made up word.
Oh yeah, what's it mean?
Yeah, it means hunter.
Oh.
Not not a word, not a 1-for-1 match of that, but
yeah. Dude, I'm still trying to think of whose dad was loyal to Battlestar Galactica now.
It'll come to you at some point.
I know, but I see what I did was I went and cleaned out a lot of my podcasts because, I knew Star Wars podcast day was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I better clean out my.
Speaking of cleaning up, and I know I'd mentioned to you guys a little challenge to listen to a couple shows. Let's up the game a little bit. Let's listen to a couple shows and see if there are any of them that we'd want to invite onto our show to chat with.
Yes, that sounds. Yeah.
I heard there was this really good podcast that took place, or that took part of Star Wars Podcast Day. It's kind of underground. It's called Star Wars Geek Girl. I think we should definitely invite them on.
I tell you, if you can get those both at the same time, you're working a miracle because those two girls are like,
I know you couldn't even get them both together for Star Wars Podcast Day.
I know. They're like, well, do it at 1:30 on a Monday. Well, yeah, that's great, but I can't do it on a Monday. Well, because Lizzie at the CIA culinary, they basically just go 3 years straight through with very little breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'll be a world-renowned chef.
Boyardee.
To work at the Star Wars cruiser. Star Wars, whatever you call it. What's it called? The Halcyon?
The Halcyon.
Halcyon.
The Galactic Star Cruiser. And I don't care what anyone says. If I had the money, I would do it.
Oh, yeah.
If I had the money.
Well, that's another one. When I listen to podcasts that went and did the free trip, right? And that's what comes back to our podcasters when you like certain people and certain people. So I value Sal's opinion because Sal and I are in the same somewhat boat when it comes to just everything. And when I hear someone like him saying, look, we went for free, we had a good time because we got into it. And he said, look, if you're going with someone who's not going to get into it, if they're not going to interact with the characters, if they're not going to do the little missions, it's probably not for you. But they went for free and they said, we are now saving up to go again. And so that was that's what I needed to hear because I heard some people that went for free and they just complained about everything. Well, but they didn't say that they did the missions. They complained about all the things they didn't get. And I think what they did was they didn't look at what they were getting.
Well, yeah, I think they went into it very naive. Like,
yeah,
that's one of the experiences that I think you should know ahead of time what it's all about.
Right.
Because if you don't realize that it's going to be role playing and you're going to your point, have little missions and you're going to go to the park for this time and that time, and it's part of the experience. And even though it's called a cruise, it's not really like being on a boat.
Right.
You know, if you don't realize that, then it probably is not for you.
Right.
Or if you just say, I'm not really a fan of Star Wars, like, it's not the kind of thing that you go just to check out.
Right. Right.
I want to go and see what's the hype all about. I don't think that it's going to be enjoyable then. You'll be sitting in the corner pointing out all the nerds.
Yeah, and I see people like Justin Sonnenfeld, who's gone multiple times and seems like he has an awesome time every time. Like he dresses up, his wife dresses up, his kid dresses up. You know what I mean? So it's again, that's where I think podcasting is so. I don't want to say it's like needed, but it adds another layer to your fandom, no matter what your fandom is. If you find those right podcasts, because they are just people like you. You know. Oh, now I just remembered who is loyal to Battlestar Galactica. It's the host of. Hang on, it's on this board.
Battlestar Galactica?
No, it's the Skywalking Through Neverland.
Ah, okay.
It's a husband and wife team. Have you ever listened to that? It's a pretty good podcast. He was on Steele's show.
He actually put it together. He and his wife put together a book.
Yeah, well, they were talking about the book, which I think that was an old one that Steele just posted up. Like, I'm on his Patreon. I only subscribed to like 2 Patreons, and Steele's one of them. Just mainly as a thank you for every time he's done the panel with Zoe. Yeah, he was talking about, and he was the one. That's what, because I listened to that one right before John's. Now I remember. But he will not watch anything Battlestar Galactica because of the feud they had. So I just think that was funny. But I had John's dad mixed up with that all day.
Well, it's kind of funny then, because he probably shouldn't watch the Star Wars Holiday Special because the art was done by Ralph McQuarrie, and Ralph McQuarrie did some of the art for Battlestar Galactica.
Well, he likes Ralph McQuarrie because he had a correspondence with Ralph McQuarrie when he was a kid. Like, he wrote him some letters, and McQuarrie wrote him back. So
that's cool.
So I don't know. But again, that's podcasting in the sense that there's people. Like, I always thought, before I met Steele, well, Steele's like a big podcaster. I'll never, meet him. Like, and then I met him and have become friends with him. And he's like, when Zoe was out in California, he was like, here's my number. If you know, blah, blah. And the same with Full of Sith guys. The Full of Sith, I thought that was like I'm never going to talk to those guys. And it was the first free comic book day that Zoe had a podcast. They called while we were trooping. I almost missed the call. And said, hey, can Zoe co-host the Full of Sith for us? So Zoe got to co-host the Full of Sith when she just starting out, And at one point in time, that was the number 1 rated podcast when they used to put Star Wars podcasts on StarWars.com. Like, they had lists of suggested podcasts. And then thanks to a few idiots, they ruined it for the rest of us.
I think some of those shows should have a little sticker that's connected with their show, just a bunch of idiots. Like, we are knowingly calling ourselves a bunch of idiots, so you're either into it or you should avoid us.
Well, unfortunately, when you search up Star Wars, if you go on Google and just search up Star Wars podcast, a lot of the top ones that come up are not good podcasts. Like, they're not good people and they're not good podcasts, but they just have that. It's just the way that algorithm, because they've been around for so long. So certain ones come up and then people listen to them. They're going to think we're all like that. So
one thing I have to figure out is how to do a better job of inviting folks to like, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think we're still going long today, but it is Star Wars. But I think we've gotten the time thing. We're getting better. We're not just rambling on for 4 hours straight. But I do think
Just
the
90 minutes.
regiment of I'm still thinking we need to have it broken down. I know this is a special episode. We need to have like here's our 10 segments we do, or say we come up with 20 different segments and we just pick that week. Okay, look, we're gonna do armor, workbench corner, whatever we call it. What we call it?
Costume corner.
Huh?
Costume corner.
Troop time. Show and tell.
All that stuff. And just do that. And we have to listen to some. Because I also think if you're a listener to another podcast and you're genuine and you say, look, I like your podcast, and because we like to hear when our podcasts are doing well. So I always send John from the Dad Batch. I always send him a quick note after I listen to a show. Hey, John, like this, boom, boom, boom. And then I talk to the guy who does Crosshair, Brian Cook. No, is it Brian Cook? I don't know. The one that does Crosshair from the Dad Batch. I always send him a note because I know his wife and daughter did Zoe's show. So I usually send him a note and stuff, just thanking him. And if we do that, not I don't do it for any other reason other than we put this out there. It's nice to hear from somebody. It's nice to just someone to pop in and say, hey, one person listened to it.
Yeah, that's why I used to get excited whenever Ark would show up.
Yeah, I haven't heard from Ark in a while.
Or who was the one most recently?
Rural Farm Boy.
Oh
yeah, Rural Farm Boy. He wanted us to get on Twitter, and so I started a Twitter account, but I'm just not. Twitter never stuck with me ever. Like of all the social medias, I tried it. I know a lot of people do it, but I'm just like,
I'm glad I'm not the only one, because he asked me the same thing. I was like, I don't even use Twitter personally.
Yeah, I just I don't. And I like Instagram and Facebook because they're attached. I can just post something on Instagram and it goes up on both. Mm-hmm. And I like TikTok because it's just goofy, Yeah. But yeah, I think if we go out and we start reaching out to these podcasts that like you said, Ken, we reach out to them and we ask them, because everyone's in the same boat as us. They might be in a different position in the boat at a certain time, but we all want some kind of like, hey, good job. Like we have each other, but some of these people, like, imagine someone that's just doing their own podcast and doesn't have the support of other podcasters. Like that's, I know what it's like when Zoe started. Like we literally felt like we were just talking into a void. And I remember we like, hey, we got a review. Like we need to review podcasts. Like you need to give them positive reviews. I would never say give someone a bad review unless it's like super warranted. But like all that stuff it makes you feel good about your podcast. Like I think I might have given the Dad Batch their first review.
I think you may have given the Forces Behind Star Wars its first review.
Me?
Yeah,
maybe.
You 100% gave the Beskar Bucket its first review. I think you actually. Hold on. I think you might still be the only review. Hang on. Hang tight.
And I think that's another reason too of going through that list of all the folks who contributed to Star Wars Podcast Day, to do exactly what you're talking about, Mike. If we find some of those shows that are funny or informative or creative that we enjoy, let's share that love.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, because it can be lonely. Like again, when the girls started, it was still a pain to make a podcast. So by the time putting theirs out, you didn't have time to like. But now you can put a podcast out pretty quick and pretty easy, relatively speaking, technology wise, and I just got a message. Do I know somebody? But I'm trying to figure out where that message came from. It came up on my screen. It was like, hey, do you know so-and-so? And I'm like, I don't see where it came from. So I don't know what I was thinking when we were podcasting, but I guess not. I don't know.
Mike, you are one of 2 ratings.
Nice.
But the only review.
I'm the only review?
The only text review.
Well, well, so Yeah, I mean, I agree, Ken. If we just reach out, find a good podcast, go down the list, because at least the ones I've glanced listening to so far, most of them seem okay. And again, if it's not for me, I'm not going to get on here and say, "Well, don't listen to that one; it sucks." I'm just going to.
That's why I didn't want to share the names of the ones that I listened. So let's do this. Let's take that list, divide it in thirds.
Okay.
I'll take the middle third. John, you want to take the upper third?
Sure.
Is there a list like on a spreadsheet somewhere we can?
You made a list of. You made a post with all of them.
Oh yeah. That was a nightmare. I'm just... Let me see.
Obviously, didn't remember it though.
Huh?
You didn't remember you did it.
Dude, I get in what were you? I would get in like in social media moods, and I just start posting up random crap. That's why. Just be glad I don't post when I'm tired, because I would probably go on incredibly really mean rants sometimes. It's all these Georgie Award things getting in my way right now. Let me see if this was the. Yeah, here we go. Oh yeah, there's a crap ton.
A crap ton.
Yeah, I'm saying some of these I've heard of, and a lot of them I've never heard of.
Well, you get to decide which ones.
Well, I'll take the first. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4.
God, we're gonna have a lot of dead air here.
Okay.
We're just listening to
I will listen. I'll start with the ones all the way down to Star Wars Geek Girl Pod. All right. I'll take down the Star Wars Geek Girl, which is, I think it's like, just rough counting, that's probably 30 some.
Okay.
Right. So that's, and then,
I'll take the ones in the middle.
Yeah. I'm just saying Star Wars Geek Girl Pod because that's how I'll remember it. Because like 10 minutes from now, I'll be like, which ones did I say I was going to take? But I will remember that. I can tell you the first one I'm going to try, and hopefully I like it. So I don't, is Jawa Jabber, because about 10 years ago, Safi recorded one called Jawa Jabber when she was really little.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think I posted it up on Star Wars Geek Girl feed somewhere, but it was just her.
Yeah. You don't have to tell us why you pick it.
Huh?
You don't have to. You don't.
No, but I'm just saying that's why I'm going to pick it. I'm just going to go by the name,
No fair, Ken. You get your own podcasts.
I don't know if I would listen to my own podcast.
And you get mine. You get all three.
There we go. So
you think I planned it or
Ken
something?
will be like, I picked 3, and I couldn't say anything good about them, so I'm going to have to move on to the next one.
Ken, you were pretty quick on the draw when you're like, I'll take the middle third. I think you had that planned.
Maybe. I mean,
I tell you what, I can't wait till the live stage comes out for London, because then I'll get to meet. Because what I did last time was I reached out when we were in Chicago. I said, look, can everyone send us a commercial? And it was really cool. The Chicago people were really cool, and we made all these commercials. When I did that for Anaheim, it was a different crowd. I think they weren't as receptive. They just it was like crickets. So I do have to figure out if I have to make sure I turn on my international phone service, because I don't want to broadcast live and then get like a $600.
The most expensive podcast ever.
Huh? Yeah.
The most expensive podcast ever.
I'll make it pay-per-view then. Now, so here, let's end this podcasting thing. So the 2 things. One, I'm looking forward to John's AI episode.
It's fantastic.
Okay.
It's probably
so that I'm looking forward to. But the last thing is thoughts on, I'm not saying this that we would do this, but thoughts on podcasts that have paywalls or Patreon? Because mine has changed over time. At first, I was all anti-Patreon. I'm still relatively anti-Patreon for like Zoe's podcast and the stuff I do just because of why we do it. But I'm not. I understand why some shows do it now more than I did in the past.
Yeah, I don't know.
It depends on the context. Like if you're locking 100% of your content, or even like 80% of your content behind a paywall, I'm not like I wouldn't exactly be on board. But like if you've got like, I don't know, like if half of your shows are, just free to the world, but the other half are, you've got like special episodes with, you're doing all these like extravagant things. Like I think of it this way, like if you're putting money into it and you're putting that content behind a paywall, that's fine. Obviously you got to recoup the costs somehow. But like if you're just sitting down and talking at a camera for 45 minutes and then you're like, all right, you want to listen to me, pay up. You know what I mean?
What's your thoughts, Ken?
I think if folks want to pay, go for it. But I will say that won't be the show that I gravitate towards.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Ken. Like that's, again, I subscribe to Steel because he offers like it's like $3 or something. And again, that's more of a thank you for the 2 times he did a panel. But yeah, and along with what John said, like I understand special content. Like I don't subscribe to them, but there's like the Bad Motivators. They do a Star Wars podcast every week, but then they have like extra stuff. Like if you want to listen to like the heavy metal, he does a heavy metal show, and he does a show with his family, and he does a whole bunch of other shows, and you have to pay for that. Because again, like John said, he's putting time and effort and stuff. So I understand that. The logistics for me too. I think to me the joy of a podcast is the real like down to earth person. And I would worry that if, let's say, I decided to do a paywall on certain, then I wonder if that would take the fun out of it. Because like if we can't meet some week, we just like, hey, But if you have people X amount of subscribers and you're not churning out content on a regular basis, well,
I don't think you're going to end up having that many. If that's the case, the subscribers won't. I don't think they'll stick with you.
Right. But I'm saying then it becomes work. Like I don't want this to become work.
Yeah.
I mean, I spend we all spend money on it. I mean, even as simple as a microphone and headphones, they're not cheap, and they start to go, and monitors break, and my Zoom recorder. I never thought in 2020 I'd buy a $300 Zoom recorder. You know what I mean? So, but you can use mine for if you ever need to be boom boy without Matt, because it's set up for a boom. It has boom mic plugs and everything on it.
Nice. And I have the pink shorts now. So.
Yeah. So
I just don't know if I have that 1970s physique.
You should get a one of those morph suits in skin tone. Then put the fake feet on and the pink shorts, and you can be boom boy, right? Even if it's cold out.
Yeah, and I got the first name for it, so
yeah. Well, if you ever drive out to California, you have to go. You can drive to that spot where he's holding it, in Death Valley, where he's holding it, and the I think the land speeder's sitting there.
Yeah,
or something. I think that's right there. I think that's at Dante's Overlook or whatever it's called. I think it's right there.
Oh, that's cool. One thing, going back to your question too about the Patreon and all that I am behind and I think would be cool even if we did it, whether it's stickers, trading cards, T-shirts, posters, whatever. If folks want to sell merchandise of their stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, I know Father and Son Galaxy does it. I know, a whole bunch of groups do it.
Yeah.
That I think is fun because then it's celebrating that show in a different way. Just like I wear a Star Wars T-shirt. I wear a Star Wars T-shirt to let the world know I'm a geek and they should avoid me at all costs.
Right. Right.
But with the podcast T-shirts, it shows that I listen to your show and I want the world to know.
Yeah,
Steel has a bunch of T-shirts.
We get TeePublic shirts for Zoe, and we get copyright violations all the time.
It's because you're using the Star Wars logo, man.
No, even when we don't use the logo, we had one that was it was just a color pattern of something. It wasn't the right logo or anything. It was just it gets reported. It's just I think some people just go around and report people that they're either jealous of, because I see people with full on looking just like a Star Wars shirt and they're on there forever, and then we'll just get we got a copyright violation for a shirt that's been up for 4 years. It was just like, oh, we got to take this shirt down. I'm like, all right, whatever. So, but yeah, no, I agree with that, Ken. I do like the merch. I've looked at Father Son Galaxy. Father and Son Galaxy. They should put in small parentheses. Mom too, because Mom does all their PR, man. And that lady's a genius. And they had a good live stage show too. I'm hoping when's that con back again?
That's usually late summer, I think.
Yeah,
in Philadelphia.
That one I would love to do that one I would love to put in for, because that was a beautiful stage setup. They even Celebration doesn't give you technicians. They literally okay, there's your soundboard, plug your stuff in, and they had guys running the board for them.
Yeah, they'll be back in Philadelphia June 2nd through the 4th.
Okay.
Fan Expo Philly.
We'll have to see what's up for that.
Wait, what was the dates again?
June 2nd through June 4th.
Yeah. What's the name of that con? Is that
Fan Expo?
Fan Expo.
Well, I'm missing Fan Expo Cleveland, so might have to make an exception for Fan Expo Philly.
Well, hey, if that's we could do a stage show.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds fun. We could be in the prisoner uniforms and run around in our
fake feet,
rubber feet.
Did you guys see the AliExpress ones?
Yeah, you know what, John?
I didn't see the price of them though.
$30.
$30.
Really?
John from the Dad Batch got them. He said it's kind of thin, but he said it's okay. But I was looking at them, and honestly, I was like, well, I wonder if you bought one of those and then went to Harbor Freight and bought one of the paper paint suits to just wear underneath. Mm-hmm. If it's super thin.
Are you worried about your business showing, or are you worried about
just that's what they were saying. It might, depending on, he just said it looked a little thin. So he got one. He says nice. I mean, you can't expect much for $30. You can barely get 2 T-shirts. And the ones they're making are really T-shirt. Nice, but man, the price just keeps creeping up on them. I was like, I could buy armor for that. That's a kind of a cool thing, but not,
Crow Props. Their pre-orders are reasonably affordable, though.
Are they really?
Yeah,
I think he's out of.
It's Italy.
Huh?
I think it's Italy.
Oh, Italy. Okay, I think I've talked to him before when I was working on the animated TIE pilot. So.
Yeah, because their pre-orders right now. I think he just posted in the forum or in the Facebook group that he just got the roll of the fabric today.
Yeah.
But yeah, $230.
Yeah.
So, and he does good stuff.
Yep. Yeah. What?
Well, before we wrap this up, we haven't mentioned it yet, and I made sure to mention it on my show. For those of you listening, Star Wars Podcast Day, the reason that we're doing this is it is the 24th anniversary of Jedi Talk. It debuted on February 7th, 1999. Obviously, we're recording this on the 8th. However, it is the 24th anniversary. None of us would be here doing this, more than likely, if it wasn't for Jedi Talk. They were the first ones to do it.
Oops, hang on. Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry. Go ahead.
And Star Wars Podcast Day is actually older than you are.
Yeah. It's got the 4 months on me. All right, Ken, relax.
Well, see, because I have never listened to that episode or anything. All it reminded me of is, remember the Force.net?
Yes.
That's where they used to post all the fan films. Pre-YouTube. Like, this was, but yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to at least make sure we mentioned that before we wrap up for the evening.
Well, before we wrap up, Mike, do you want to show the little trailer that you made for the Georgies?
Well, I was going to put the beginning of the Georgies on.
The opening? Okay.
Yes. I figure we'd roll out with that.
Yeah.
Because I've watched that's brought the second smile after the Beskar bucket. So anyone listening to this, you got to listen to John's Beskar bucket with his dad. I'm waiting for his dad to start his Stormtrooper build podcast of him becoming a Stormtrooper. But that's
complete
an awesome
with swearing.
Huh?
Complete with swearing. You got to make sure that none of that gets bleeped out.
Yes. But then you'll just get I don't think they really do the language thing as much as they used to. We used to have to be really careful with the language thing on the early podcast. Apple would flag you pretty easy for that. So let me see if I can get this up on the full screen, and we will exit out with the beginning of the Georgies. Hang on, sound man.
We gotta fire our crew.
Hang on. I sat at that exact table.
No. Han shot first, all right? What are you even saying that for? Are you insane? Chewbacca ate your friends. What are you doing? What are you even listening to him for? Get out. I have proof. I don't have it with me. R2 what? R2, what are you doing? R2D2, what are you talking about? I don't have to be to the awards until 9 o'clock. Oh, Eastern Standard Time. Oh, I gotta go. I have a feeling the dark side's trying to prevent me from getting to the awards. What? BB-8, where am I supposed to go? Oh, of course, I didn't think of that. I forgot the invitation. What are you and R2D2 on the same Slack channel? Come on, stop. All right, ladies and gentlemen. The dark side tried to stop us, but we made it. We made it to where it all began, here at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. Back in 1977, this is where Star Wars premiered. This is where 20th Century Fox took a chance on a new filmmaker out of USC that just made a movie about racing cars and gave him a green light to make a movie about science fiction. So tonight, we don't only celebrate George, we celebrate Star Wars 2022. The best shows, the best actors, the best in Star Wars. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the forces behind Star Wars presents the Georgie Awards.
And I love this part.
Yeah, this part was fantastic. I got goosebumps. want to see for next year is that each of us have one of these, and they spin, and it changes into one of us. So the panels spin, and it shows Steven. The panel spin, it shows John. The panel spin, and it shows Anthony. How cool would that be?